right.
So what are your hopes for the new year?
Oh man, I do have a lot of hopes. I hope the Rockets win. That they're the NBA champs this year. No, but yeah.
I hope we don't get too much snow.
I definitely am hoping for not too much snow. I am hoping for a really beautiful summer. That's my favorite season. Well, I can't say it's my favorite. I just really enjoy summer. But no, I'm hoping for, opportunities for myself, the church, to share the hope of Jesus in a world that seemingly feels more and more hopeless.
It's being pulled apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been talking about Hope Starts Here over the last several weeks.
We have.
And as we're turning the corner into this upcoming year, we believe that there are a lot of places where hope will start. And we want to just in this Sunday session, we just want to give you a little sense of what that might look like. We're going to invite some of our staff to join us and share from their own experience, their own ministries. Yeah. What could this look like for us? So
thanks for letting me co-host with you, Pastor Mark.
It's a pleasant blessing.
Well, I appreciate it. And putting up with all my jokes and my rabbit holes.
All right, so there are some exciting conversations we want to have about hope going forward as we're looking toward a new year.
Yes.
So there are some things that we want to discuss in particular, places where we think we can find hope.
Hopefully.
Right? Yeah. I see what you did there.
No pun intended.
And often at this time of year, after the holiday season, people are pretty exhausted. They're weary. Can you find hope when you're weary? And so we've asked Brooke, our director of Seneca Creek Kids, to come and share a little bit about hope for the weary. You don't know anything about being weary.
I don't know a single thing about what it means to be tired, so I'm just going to make this up as I go.
Speaking for a friend.
Yes, asking for a friend. Can you get hope when you're tired? I sure hope so, because I'm tired. And I think most of the people who are watching this can identify, not just because it's the end of the holiday season, but we went into the holiday season tired. Yeah. We're already tired. 2025 has been a lot. Yeah. It's been a lot on a lot of people. So yeah, this isn't my first year feeling like I'm limping into Advent. And I know a lot of people share that this year.
So have you found a place, have you experienced that hope when you're weary?
I have. I was thinking about this earlier today because I'm like, I have no experience, if I look back in hindsight, where I didn't. So every time I sit in weariness, I don't know why it's hard to see that hope is coming or hope that hope is coming. I'm like, I have no reason to think God's not going to show up because he has every single time. I just have a short memory and I'm very human.
Don't we all? Yeah.
I am. So in this season, when I am very tired, because I have children with lots of interest and big personalities, and I am their chauffeur, I'm already tired. Like I'm walking into things tired. And I don't want to let any of that go because I love my children and I want them to have all the things that they desire in life. Like I don't want that to be taken away. I'm happy to be weary for that. But then it's the other stuff on top of it, which are good things. And I want those things, but I can feel like I'm too tired for those things.
Right.
Like in my ministry, there are good things that we could be doing, and I might be holding myself back from it because I'm tired.
Yeah.
And we're sitting in that moment right now. We have felt the renewed calling in Seneca Creek Kids to become a more inclusive space. Because we've always been a fun place and a safe place and a place where kids come to know and love and follow Jesus. And we want to continue to be that way.
Yeah.
But we are recognizing that there is more intentionality we could be doing in all of these spaces to make it more inclusive for children with unique needs, whether that's a disability that is physical or intellectual, whether they have sensory issues, even if they're just experiencing some kind of trauma at home or at school, or even collectively, there's community trauma that certain groups of people are experiencing right now. And if Seneca Creek Kids doesn't feel like a safe place for them on Sunday morning, then I need to be putting in more work. And so that's what we're working on.
That sounds like a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot for someone who's tired. And this is another one of those situations where God showed up and be like, I'm not tired. let's get to work. And people have been sent and resources have been sent. And so the good work continues because at the end of my rope, the hope showed up.
Are you able to share any details on that? I don't want to put you on the spot.
You don't want to, spoiler alert, you don't want to tell everybody. So we have several people in our church who work with children with disabilities professionally. Okay. That is their career. There's also their passion. I have one of them who had said to me recently, she was looking for a place to serve, and this is what she cares about, because she said, if it makes you mad, make it your ministry.
Wow.
And she's made it her ministry, but it's what she does for her career. And she wanted to apply it here because we are her church, we're her community, and she wanted to bring those gifts. Yeah. And now she can. And we have been able to develop a whole slew of resources that we are implementing, something new almost every Sunday.
Yeah, I've seen some of that. Yeah.
I know, I'm very excited. So by the beginning of the year, hopefully, fingers crossed, our official calm room will be ready to be used. It's got a sensory swing in there.
I was going to say, is this like for students that need, or children that need like have sensory needs?
Yes, but it's meant to be like a temporary refuge.
Okay.
We certainly don't want any child who has a unique need to come in and feel like they're going to be separated because of what their needs are.
Right.
We will keep you with your age group as long as you are comfortable and safe and happy. We want you to be with your peers. We want you to hear the same story that everyone else is hearing every week. But if it becomes too much, or if you need a break, we're going to have the calm room.
Right. Can I use that calm room after my one-on-ones with Pastor Mark? Or he might need it after my...
I'll tell you, in case anyone's wondering, the sensory swing does have a pretty high weight limit. Adults can use it, and I've tried it.
Yeah. But no, this is good.
That's one particular example that you're seeing right now of saying, hey, I'm finding hope even in my weariness because God is showing up again and bringing people that you probably didn't even go and look for, right? They're just...
I didn't.
They're coming to you saying, God is kind of prompting me. Maybe that's not their words, but
yes,
but like
in those examples, I'm like, wow, if I had just sat in my weariness and said, this is something for next year, like we can't do that right now. I don't have the resources. I just can't handle it. I wouldn't. Then I would be standing between what God has called them to do in them.
Yeah.
Because all of them, I didn't ask any of them. Wow. But I have a team of 3 now who are professionals, and they've all showed up, and it's because this is what makes me mad, and it's my ministry. Wow. And now you've provided this place where I can do it, and that gives me that hope that like adding this on isn't going to make me more weary.
Right.
It makes me think of like in our weakness, he is strong.
Yes.
That idea, not just in might, in physical strength, but strong in provision and providing people to come in and be a source of knowledge and resources and skills and all these abilities that they have to be able to fulfill the mission that the Lord has put on them to do. Yeah. And definitely reminds us that it's not in our own doing, our own strength that we are able to show up, whether it's in our personal life, ministry life. But it's, people come in around us, and that definitely gives hope in weary spaces. Because I can imagine when you say I'm tired, because we say this all, and people ask me like, how you doing? I'm tired. It's not just a physical exhaustion, it's a emotional exhaustion.
It's like soul tired. My soul is tired.
Yeah. And so to have a person come in and say, hey, I feel that the Lord has called me to do this. There is a joy that comes with that just rejuvenates and just gives you a little hope in that moment of weariness.
Yeah. And so just before we wrap this section up, Brooke, we've been tackling this question of what would that look like if the church could embody hope for the weary? And I think you've probably maybe answered that question already with some of the individuals that you're talking about.
Yeah, well, maybe outside of the ministry context. How can the church, outside of the building of the church, provide this maybe?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I think hope for the weary comes down to a lot of belonging to it. And I think in our ministry context, but also outside of it, the way to provide hope for people who are weary is to build a bigger table, to pull up another chair. to be hospitable and make a place where they belong, which is what we really care about. We want to make sure that every child with unique needs knows that they belong here.
Yeah.
But also let their families know that you belong here.
Right.
This might not be like every other place you go in the community where you feel like you're being judged or you're not welcome. Like that's not going to happen here. And even if it's not coming in to sit and listen to your sermons and enjoy your worship, this place is a refuge for you.
Yeah.
But this place does not exist inside of this building. Like we, as your community, as Seneca Creek, we are a refuge.
Yeah.
We are a place where you belong, and you can come tired as you are. Like it says, what does it say in Oh Holy Night? Like the weary world rejoices. We want to rejoice with you even when you're tired.
Yeah.
So let us be your community. Let's celebrate you. Let's worship together. It's pull up another seat.
Yeah.
You're welcome here.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And join us when the series gets started. We'll talk about this and some other things. So thank you very much, Brooke.
Thanks, Brooke.
Okay, so these are some exciting conversations.
I love it. I love talking. So
Yeah. So what's next?
I think this time we're going to be talking about hope and real connection, where we can find hope when we feel so disconnected to people. How can we create real connection in our community? And we have asked Heather to come out and and talk a little bit about this. Can you share a little bit about your personal life or your ministry life and what hope can look like in real connection for you?
Sure. I want to start with giving a little context as to why this is such a front burner issue right now. I think we live in, particularly in this area, at 1,000 miles an hour, and speed of life is not conducive to connection. Add to that, coming out of COVID, when we were isolated, kind of learning to re-engage with people is difficult.
Yeah.
And we've kind of adapted our lives around COVID behaviors and haven't really rolled those back as much as we maybe could. Add to that, this is a transient area. People aren't here for a really long time. We have an entire generation that is coming up in a space of disconnected relationships and masked relationships. So there's a gentleman, Scott Galloway, who's written some phenomenal material, including a book about this and how people don't know how to meet people. Like, his example is you don't know how to go to a bar and just talk to people, but people genuinely don't know how to meet people and just have normal conversation.
Yeah.
And that's the start of connection, right? Like you don't just immediately meet someone and feel deeply connected and share your life story. I mean, some of us do, but like some of us do. Some of us overshare. But truthfully, even though we kind of have that existence, there's this deep longing for something deeper. And there's a desire for spaces that are not performative, right? That are real, that doubts and questions and concerns and confusion are welcome at the table. There's this allergy to forced interaction, right? That they want.
You mean people
interaction?
Don't like it when I tell them turn to your neighbor and say Jesus loves.
Turn to your neighbor. No, I've been fighting for you.
Man.
And I think too, it's often that we don't really think of the church as a place for that. Like we look to other spaces in our lives, our gym, our mom's club, our neighborhood, our workplace. And those are good places and healthy places to begin to develop relationships. But the church is as well, right? Because it should be, right?
Yeah.
Relationships within a church context give us space to be spiritually formed with one another.
Right.
To grow in a way that perhaps other spaces don't necessarily feed that food, right? They don't provide it. Not to mention, God is a relational God, and he's wired us. The Imago Dei within us cries for relationship. It's within us. So this is a very natural space for those kinds of things to grow and to take root.
But it doesn't always happen.
But it does not always happen. And what's hard about that is there are lots of things the church can do, and we can talk about that. But ultimately, it comes down to the individual. You have to choose to engage. You have to choose to put yourself out there. Yeah. It's terrifying, right? So there are a couple things that are required. You have got to slow down.
Yeah.
I read somewhere, relationship cannot be microwaved. right? Like you can't.
I like that.
Right? I do too.
Yeah.
I can't take credit, but like you can't do that. So you have to slow down. You have to set aside time or space or whatever, or rhythms that create space for relationship and connection to be born.
Yeah.
It also takes a tremendous amount of bravery. It is scary to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to be rejected. And again, kind of hearkening back to Scott Galloway's book, he talks about how it's so much easier to be engaged online with, Discord groups or chat groups because you're not going to get rejected necessarily. There's this barrier of, they might reject my conversation, but they're not rejecting the who I am. Whereas when you're face to face, they can reject you. And then you do all this internal work of, is it because I had something between my teeth? Or is it because I'm weird? Or I'm awkward?
Yeah.
Well, I'm the queen of awkward, right? Like, but you have to be brave enough to be like, all right, I'm willing to be awkward and I'm willing to be rejected because the payoff could be so much greater.
Yeah.
The payoff is something that I genuinely need desperately.
Yeah.
It is worth it.
It means like changing, or like you said, intentionality.
That's exactly right.
Like
you have to do it. And then it takes discipline. And this is the part where I'm not great. And I'm blessed to have some really good friendships and connections, both inside the church and outside the church, where they are much better at discipline. And what I mean by discipline is you can't let a friendship go by the wayside without connection and interaction for months at a time. You can't just have a texting friendship, right? I have some of those and they're very thin. You have to set aside time. If you want real, authentic, deep connection, you have to be disciplined to be like, when was the last time I talked to this person? When was the last time they came to my house? Came into my space? When was the last time I invited them into a struggle that I have? And being very disciplined about, okay, I want to maintain this connection as deep and authentic, so I need to go there again.
I'll share this story real briefly. So I have a friend of mine, another pastor. We've been friends for probably 10 or 15 years. And on more than one occasion, when he's reached out to me, he's like, how come I'm always the one that has to reach out? I'm like,
yeah, I have definitely been called on that carpet a few times myself.
Definitely.
Talk about that.
Right, right. I have one friend in particular that I have asked, like, please remind me that I'm not doing what I need to do in this friendship, which is really
there's like it's just a level of I love the word discipline that you used for that, but there's also resiliency as well, right? Like because you're putting yourself out there. You, like you said, you might get rejected, and you might feel all those things, and it might just not work.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you just got to try again.
That's right.
Try again and try again.
And recognizing that some friendships are for a season, and that's okay, but that doesn't make them less real and less important. So it's on the individual. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so given what you're saying about how much really falls in the lap of me as a person to make this happen, is there any way that the church can maybe embody this or make this more likely to happen? I mean, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are a lot of ways. And I've seen this over the last year. We did 3 kind of unique connecting events where we provided like a space to explore watercolor. And then we had a writing workshop. And then we had another watercolor event with a slightly different theme. And each of them had like a spiritual rhythm to them, but they weren't overly religious, right? So they had a very low threshold for invitation. And you could have not touched a brush or a pen since your last middle school assignment, right? and come into this space and learn and engage, and then meet other people who are kind of in the same space, or maybe they're actually really good at whatever we're doing, writing or painting or whatever, and you can learn from them and have a conversation, and it creates this safe starting space. I had a conversation with a woman after the first watercolor event where she's a single mom, 3 kids, and never has time for herself, right? Because that's the story, right? She's their taxi, she's running them to all kinds of errands and things like that, right? And she took a time on that Saturday morning to come and just sit and be. And then the spiritual rhythms that were built into that event gave her space to kind of relax and engage in a way that she had not anticipated. Yeah. And the gift that was, and the ability to connect with other people who were experiencing that same gift. And the same story could be told of the writing workshop, right? We had guys out there who had never really sat down to write, but had kind of wanted to, and leaning into that and exploring that. It was really beautiful. And then coming up, I know, and this is, I mean, it's a shameless plug, but here it is. I know Christine, our preteen and middle school director, is leading a group starting in February for parents and how to parent in the digital world. Well, that is a very natural connection, right? Yeah. Like, you don't have to be this high, holy, devoted follower of Jesus Christ to engage with this parenting group. It's super important to have these conversations. And I know the material she's using, the author is phenomenal and brilliant. And so that's just a really easy way. And so creating those easy spaces with low barrier, easy invitation to be like, hey, and not from a bait and switch perspective, like, no, we really want to, I definitely need other parents that are in the same age and stage. I mean, I have a young adult child, but still, like, it's, I'm still a parent. And so understanding what other parents of young adults are going through is super important. Just a natural connection. So continuing to create those spaces is critical.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is that we as a church, big C church, not Seneca, little C church, or like when I say big C church, like the church global. Mm-hmm. We tend to make barriers unintentionally often to some of our events because maybe, churchy things aren't what people are looking for, really.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. One of the ways that we can make connections at church is just by coming to church.
Yeah.
And I will probably irritate some people, but that doesn't mean showing up 10 minutes late and leaving the minute the message is over and you're done praying.
Uh-oh.
Right? Like, you're not going to meet people that way.
Miss out.
You're going to miss out, but your church box gets checked.
I
right?
didn't pay her to say that. I'm just saying.
No, but that's real, right? And we're all guilty of it. And maybe that's that particular Sunday, but not building that into a rhythm of, hey, I'm just going to hang out and meet some people. That's fine. It's scary, but it's fine. Yeah. But those are spaces where you can have a conversation that isn't overly churchy, even though it's in the church building. Right. I do think people have a misconception about things like small groups, that they have to be in them if they're theological experts.
Yeah.
Or that they have to facilitate them because they're theologians or they're seminary graduates. And that really isn't true. The verse that talks about iron sharpens iron, right? That's not the Bible sharpens iron, right? That's the relationship, the spiritual development between people is what actually develops us spiritually. It creates those disciples. Jesus didn't say, go throw scripture scrolls at people and make them believe. He said, go and make disciples, right? Because it's a relational activity.
Yeah. Kind of like the Advent movies that we had. During the Advent season,
right?
We're just watching a movie together.
That's right.
So creating opportunities that aren't like super high religion, high church, but just an opportunity to connect with people.
Yep, exactly.
That's awesome. Yeah, we're going to talk about this more in the coming series, so we hope you can join us for that. And thank you very much, Heather.
Thanks, Heather.
Okay, so we are talking about hope for the future. What does that look like for us? Different places that we want to talk about that today, and also actually going into the new year as we're turning the corner. And so we've asked Pastor Katie to come and talk a little bit about finding hope for your purpose. So, Katie, welcome, and tell us, have you experienced this in your life, in your ministry? What does that mean? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, thank you. So when I think about hope in my purpose, I think about a really pretty dark time in my life where I was feeling pretty hopeless, pretty purposeless, kind of lost. I often would kind of describe it as feeling like I was sleepwalking, like not really alive or living, just kind of going through each day.
Going through the
motions and just really thinking like, is this it? Is this all that there is to life? And it was at that time that I kind of stumbled although I really don't think I just stumbled on it. I think God brought it to me.
Come
On this spiritual practice of gratitude. And so I picked up a copy of Ann Voskamp's book, 1,000 Gifts, and I decided, okay, I can give this a try. And her challenge is to name 1,000 gifts. And she writes this book. It takes her a year to do this. And so I just started being really intentional about every day writing down all those little gifts, the color of the sky, the birds singing, clean floors, a dishwasher to clean my dishes. Just being aware. And a surprising thing happened is that my soul kind of started to wake back up.
Wow.
And I really was feeling that kind of spark of hope.
Okay.
And that realization that my purpose wasn't something that I had to kind of strive after or kind of uncover or create, but it was a gift that God had given. And now, after I've been through seminary and I've studied all kinds of things, I'm reminded of the Westminster Catechism that says that the chief end or purpose of humanity is to glorify God and to enjoy God forever. And so I think of that, my purpose in that moment was like, I can just enjoy God.
Yeah.
Enjoy God's presence. And that's absolutely beautiful. And that was such a beginning of hope in me.
Yeah.
That, wow, I get to just be. And I can,
right?
I can accomplish my purpose through this joy that God gives.
Because what you talked about, that sense that you have to find and create your own. I mean, that's a huge burden to bear. So
yes,
to have
and
that
it's
taken off.
Yeah. It's like, well, what is the first step? I don't even know how to begin. But to just realize, I can just be. I can just enjoy God and all of God's incredible gifts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The story doesn't end there, though.
No, the story doesn't end. Yeah. So the next part really happened right here at Seneca Creek.
Okay.
In community, because as I'm thinking, okay, I can just enjoy God's presence, but how does that fit with my giftings, with the things that I'm good at, that my passions, or a calling or vocation? What is the next step?
Right.
And it was through being participating in small groups, having some mentors here at the church, people to speak to me and call out and affirm giftings in me that I had no idea. People saying, I think you should lead a small group because I think you have some leadership gifts, some gifts of compassion, gifts of listening. And I'm like, that can't be talking about me. I would never see myself as a leader. But over time, just hearing that affirmation over and over from different people. And I remember the kind of light bulb moment for very clearly what the next step should be and kind of stepping into my purpose was I was in a rooted group and Pastor Jeanette was the leader.
Yeah.
And she had shared some of her story of how God had called her into pastoral ministry and going to seminary online, and she still had kids at home. And I just thought, I could do that. And that combined with looking at some of my spiritual giftings, we did an inventory, and I think it was knowledge, faith, and teaching. And just that interesting combination of I could go to seminary. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So you did?
So I did. Yes. I did. And it's been an incredible gift to now be kind of on that other side as a pastor, to have that, that privilege, the honor to walk alongside others, to help them first encounter their purpose as enjoying God forever, and then being able to speak into people's lives and say, hey, I recognize these gifts in you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what what might be those next steps in your own personal purpose and vocation, wherever that is. Obviously, we're not all called to be pastors in the church
Or church staff.
but how can I empower and equip you for what God has called and created you for? Because there's so much hope when we get to walk in what God has created us to do. It's incredible.
I think that's one of my favorite things that I get to do on church staff is to be able to speak life into the people that are on my teams and say, hey, did you know you're kind of good at this? Whatever that is. And co-leading that class with you and Heather called Discover Your Design, which will be coming up in February, I believe.
End of January.
Yes. So sometime in the new year, right? So sign up for that. That's a great class. But it's that idea of like, you are God's workmanship, created to do good things that he has already set aside for you to do. And being able to come alongside and speak that over folks and help them discover that. It's that idea of that we talked about this in our class too, that ikigai method. It's a Japanese practice of finding your purpose. It's like, well, what am I good at? What does the world need? How can I make money off of this? And all these, and finding that where most of those circles kind of intersect. And that's one of my favorite things to do on staff. But I will say, Katie, is that I think that enjoying God is such a vital part of the conversation, because I can imagine when you're in that state of just kind of like doing, not even like feeling purposed and feeling kind of maybe lost, it's hard to even receive those affirmations or to receive those, like, I think God is calling you to, X, Y, Z, when you're just in the muck of it all. And so I think that practice of gratitude, really seeing what are these different gifts that the Lord has done and saying thank you and changing your perspective and saying, this is my purpose, is to say thank you, Lord, and enjoy you. Yeah.
Do you, Katie, before we wrap up, do you have any ideas or thoughts of what this might look like if we as a church could embody this to maybe to another, a better degree than we're doing?
Yeah, I think that when people walk in their purpose, and maybe that's here, all of us at Seneca Creek. So when we as a church family, a church body can walk in all of our purposes, we are really unleashing hope to the entire community. And so it's a big responsibility, right? To help people step into that, but it's so life-giving. And so I think about, for me, it was the small groups, right? So I think about our small groups and how I hope to empower and equip those leaders to be able to recognize and call out and affirm giftings in the people that participate in their groups. And I think about the SIVA ministry training, which, is a training specifically for people to walk alongside those who are hurting. But it's so much more. It's like the communication skills, the assertiveness, the boundaries that we all need, regardless of where we're working or what we're doing, to be able to bring hope into those spaces as well.
Yeah, that's great. Some powerful things to learn and
challenging things to hear as well. Yeah.
Wherever God has you at this point, right, to be able to figure out what that purpose is, taking some of what you've shared. And so we'll be talking about this a little bit more in the series to come. So hopefully you can join us. Pastor Katie, thank you for being part of this.
Yeah, thank you.
So we've got some great conversations here today.
We do.
And we are, as we said, talking about how do we find hope going forward in some specific ways. And so Pastor John is here to talk to us a little bit about hope in those places in life where things hurt. So John, thank you for joining us. And maybe if you can tell us a little bit about where you have seen or experienced hope when it hurts, either in your own life or your ministry.
Yeah. I guess for some of you guys who don't know, or whoever probably meeting me for the first time or not familiar, our family has been going through a long cancer journey with our youngest daughter. And so as soon as she turned 2, a couple days later, we found out that she had cancer. We were down at Children's, and we were at Children's for, oh my goodness, it felt like eternity for a long time. And so with our youngest, Michaela, I mean, we were there for 3 rounds of chemo, for a bone marrow transplant, and like the whole 9 yards through the hospital journey. And it's a lot, and the amount of pain and hurt and hardships for me, for our family to kind of navigate through that was definitely a season of when it hurts.
Yeah, a lot of pain there.
A lot of pain there. But we, in the midst of that pain, we saw so much beauty and love and just support from the church, from our friends and from this church and from other churches, just kind of walking alongside and supporting us in that time period. It was a glimmers of hope, glimmers of God's faithfulness in the midst of pain and chaos, like holding those two things kind of like in tension with one another.
Yeah. Are there examples that stood out for you in that?
Yeah. One thing that stuck out a lot was the idea of intercession prayer. And a group of my friends came together every Monday night from day 1 of hospitalization, and they committed of every Monday from 8 to 9 p.m. that they're going to be praying every single week until we say stop. And so, I mean, this went on for months and months and months and months. And they opened it up to like anyone and everyone that wanted to join to kind of jump in and pray. And for me to kind of show up and pray if I wanted to. And that was hard for me to want to jump into that space. But there are times when I would and just sit and just cry and just weep and hearing the prayers and just being in that space. And one of the paradigms and the perspectives of intercession prayer that I like to think about is, a group of people having faith for someone when they don't have faith, or having or giving strength for someone who doesn't have any strength. And so I felt like this is what that group did. When I was struggling to have faith, when I was struggling in just any strength at all, knowing and trusting that this group of friends is carrying a faith that I do not have. Week to week, and being okay with me just sitting and just crying and lamenting and just hoping that God would move, in a way that I didn't have faith for.
That makes me think of Aaron and Moses. Like, Moses was getting weak holding his staff up, and Aaron comes in and he's, I'm gonna help you hold that staff up.
Exactly.
And the friends that bring the paralytic to Jesus, and like how it required this community of people who, when they're hurting, these people were hurting in different kinds of ways, to come in and intercede on their behalf. And so, it reminds me too, I had a friend who passed away not too long ago from cancer, and she was not but maybe 30, and she was kind of on her own in the city, but a group of us friends that came together, we decided we're going to put a schedule together. We're going to go in and sit with her. We're going to spend this night with her. We're going to spend this day with her. So we know the value of having family members there in hospitals when people are sick like that. But it makes me wonder, for folks who don't have a lot of people like that, what can the church, how can the church show up for people who are maybe loners or just don't have a large community that can can show up that way.
Yeah, how do we embody that
Right.
as a church? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the first example that you kind of gave is like the ministry of presence is huge, right? I think the idea of sometimes we're too quick in opening our mouths, right? And giving these Christian platitudes and these sayings that all come from a good place,
Yeah.
mind you, right? But sometimes we're just too quick to open our mouths and perhaps maybe just to sit and just to be present, and you may not have the words and that's totally fine, but just to sit and say you're not alone in this, I'm here, right, is huge. But I mean, also thinking about how can we engage with those that are hurting in a way that's appropriate to our relationship to them?
Right. Yeah.
as
Like
well.
I'm not staying the night at a hospital with anybody and everybody.
Correct.
Because I can't be that for everybody.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. But there are some things that you can intentionally do,
Right.
Supporting financially or showing up in meals or things to help support the family. And sometimes it's things that, I think that a lot of times like if there's anything that we can do, like just let me know. But then we kind of just leave it.
We don't, right.
I'm
right.
guilty.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
totally have said that. I've been
Instead
there.
of, instead of maybe like just doing something.
Correct.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the grocery store and buy you milk and eggs and
eggs.
bread,
Yeah.
and I'm going to drop it off. And maybe that's not exactly what you need, but
Yeah, and I think like depending on the relationship, right? Like it might change on how you show up for that person. And this is the, like I've had times when we were like, "Hey, we're going to pay for this cleaning person to like come in and clean your house." Like we pay them in full, for 2 cleaning sessions. Hey, just call them when you're ready. Like there's no pressure, no whatever. It's here.
Right.
Use it when you can. But I mean, if someone did that for me, I'd be like, I'm a germaphobe. I don't want anyone to walk into my house. I don't want anyone to come into my house, right? I don't want them to step into my house with their shoes on. You know what I mean? It's just I have to clean after the cleaning ladies clean, and so that
I clean before the cleaning.
Oh, right. There are people who do that. I was like, I can't let them see, my mess, right?
but you're right, the relationship,
correct.
I think, helps
Right.
guide some of that to say, what do I know about this person, and how do I know they could be genuinely helpful?
Yeah.
I think,
the best ways to serve, like what could they need, and being proactive, right, with that, and not just waiting in the background of like, wow, I guess I'm just waiting for them to text me, because to be honest, when you are in a place of hurting and darkness, like you can't think, like your mind is just like, how do I just even make it through that day, and it's just hard. Like you don't even think about like what can you do for tomorrow or today. It's like, how do I even just make it through without just losing my mind? Just another day, another night. And we had some great friends who came alongside of us and just intentionally, like during my birthday, we were in the hospital. They showed up with a special meal for us, and like my wife had her birthday and they showed up for a special meal for her. And for Christmas, they were like, hey, you know what? We are going to take care of the presents for the kids, right? Like, don't even think about doing Christmas. And they're right. I didn't even have the bandwidth to think about, I got to get gifts. I got to do stuff and try to make life at home a little bit normal. But like, these friends are like, hey, we're going to buy these gifts for your kids and don't worry about it. And when they opened up the gifts, we didn't know what it was like. Oh yeah, that's great. That's a fun gift, right? It's like, oh yeah, sure. But taking that initiative and that sense of like thoughtfulness of just being like, how do I show love in a way that's super tangible? And that just spoke volumes to us of just like these people being so intentional, so mindful of not only just our needs, but like the needs of our whole family, and like Carmen, my wife, and our baby spent Christmas at Children's, and Children's have their own thing to kind of help us to feel seen as well, and that was super meaningful for us as well. But I think that in these spaces of just knowing, for the church to know, like, how do you mourn with those who mourn, weep with those who weep, right, and rejoice with those who rejoice, right? But it's just that mourning part and walking alongside people of like knowing what it means to just, hey, I'm just going to sit and just cry and just be and just have that ministry of presence, but also the thoughtfulness of serving and giving what, being proactive, right? But it's just not,
We don't like to do that. We don't like to sit in the discomfort of the morning. That's why the platitudes. Oh well, everything's gonna be all right.
fine.
Sit with someone when you don't have answers. It feels awkward and uncomfortable. It's difficult. I think, you've given us, John, some great examples of what that has looked like, and for us as a church, for anyone who's watching, like as we're going into this new year, ways that we could be really agents of hope and help bring that into somebody's life who's going through a difficult time. So thank you very much for sharing.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thanks.
All right. Wow. So these are great conversations.
Some fun conversations.
I know. I'm very hopeful for what lies ahead, and we're hopefully giving you all some good reasons to believe that there is hope as we go into the new year and beyond. We've talked about some specific particular areas, but we want to zoom out a little bit and kind of include everybody in case the conversations so far have left you feeling like, that's not me. I'm not weary. I'm not hurting. I'm not whatever. But to talk about what does that look like for all of us? Hope for everyone in the coming year. And so all y'all. Pastor Wesley, our executive pastor, is here to just give us some thoughts and maybe a little bit of your own journey on this topic, Wesley. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for organizing this and having me at least share a little bit about hope. I've been thinking a lot about this, and I guess the idea I've been thinking about is the difference between like feeling welcomed or feeling like you belong.
What's the difference?
I lost my train of thought.
Welcomed versus belonging.
Yes.
Well, when we talk about hope for everybody, are you starting it with, before we can get to hope? Maybe it starts with welcoming, belonging.
So what I've been thinking about a lot is the difference between being welcomed in a space and having a feeling like you belong in that space.
Okay, gotcha.
And I thought a lot about. So when I first moved to Maryland, I was working kind of in a parachurch ministry, which had me at a lot of different churches on Sunday morning. So almost 40 different churches on Sunday morning.
Wow.
And so I would visit all these churches, and oftentimes I was the first person to show up. So I showed up early. I needed to be there for the pre-service run through and those kinds of things.
Oh, man.
And I got an opportunity to see how different churches organized their teams and prepared for guests to show up, to be hospitable. And I learned that churches put a lot of effort into helping people feel welcomed into a space like this.
We have a whole welcome team.
It's such an important thing. And it's one of the teams that I'm so grateful for, right? Because when people come into a building like this, we don't know what kind of burdens they're carrying. I know for me personally, at a time when I went back to school, I had been a pastor and I went back to school and I moved to New Jersey to go back to school, and I was visiting churches and looking for a church. I was in my early 20s. I was a long way away from home. I didn't know anyone in the area. Moved during the summer, so it was before school started. Didn't have an opportunity to know anyone. And I know how meaningful it was for me to even after having been a pastor, having been to seminary, having grown up in the church, how nervous I was walking into a church building. And how meaningful it was for me that just kind of my blood pressure went down. I felt at ease when people greeted me at the door and said good morning.
Because you feel welcome.
Yeah, I felt welcome, and it made a world of difference for me. So our team makes a world of difference for so many people here on Sundays. And they help people feel welcome. But the difference between feeling welcome and discovering this feeling of belonging is, like, belonging is this experience when you feel included. Like when you see you're seen not just as a being or a body or a human being walking through the door, a guest. But there's a genuine interest in who you are, your background, your culture, in creating space for that.
Feeling like you're part of it?
Yeah, you begin to feel like you're a part of it, right?
Okay.
And that's really where hope begins to take root, right? Because we can have a website that says everybody's welcome. We can stand at the door and say everybody's welcomed.
Yeah.
But until you feel like you belong, and this is a place where you can contribute, where you can grow, where you can be included, where you can meet Jesus in a way that it feels like Jesus is concerned about you, your being, your life, and those kinds of things. And the church has a unique opportunity to create those kinds of spaces for people.
Yeah. So let me try this out on you, because I think I'm tracking what you're saying, and I heard this many years ago.
Okay.
The difference between...
I don't know where this is going, guys.
Surprise. A difference between a friendly church and a church of friends.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that kind of get part of what you're talking about as well?
I think
I'm
so.
known
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. I think yes. Yeah. I mean, I think so. Yeah.
Cheers. Where everybody knows your name a little bit.
Without as
Yeah?
much beer, probably. Yeah.
Well, and it's one of the things that I'm learning. When I was a kid, when I was a little kid, we, with my friends, it wasn't hard for us to have something in common. So, like, I grew up in this neighborhood. I lived there my whole life. My parents were very stable. So lived in the same neighborhood my whole life, had the same group of friends. Everyone on my street we were just friends as kids. As we've grown up, we've in some ways grown apart in the sense that we think different, we've experienced different things, we live in different states, we went to different schools, we have different careers. But friends, right, make space for you even when you in many ways have grown apart.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's some people that I grew up with that if I see them, I'm happy to see them. Yeah, we have all kinds of memories that we share. But the depth of relationship just isn't the same because they weren't really friends as much as they were. We just had something in common. We enjoyed playing together as kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But they became my real friends. Right. They make space for me.
Okay.
Right?
Space at the table.
Space at the table. Yeah.
So one of the things we're trying to get at in these conversations is, what about us? Like what would that look like if we learned better how to embody this kind of hope as a church?
Yeah. And I think, when we come into a space like this, we all come with our individual ideas, ideologies, preferences. We have unique taste. There's things that we enjoy, right? There's certain music that we enjoy. There's certain things we're looking for out of the message. There's certain things that we want out of a church. And oftentimes the things that we want out of a church experience center ourselves in our own personal needs, and they don't create space. And maybe we don't even, because I don't think it's an intentional thing.
No.
Right? I think it's just the way we're wired as humans. But sometimes we fail to see the way that when we get a church that meets all of our needs, that somehow creates a space where others aren't welcomed or don't feel like they belong.
I mean, if everybody was cut from the same cookie cutter mold, then that would work.
Yes.
That's not our reality.
Yeah, and just look at the three of us sitting here. I mean, we come from very different backgrounds, very different church experiences.
Yeah.
And very different upbringings. So if we were to talk about all those things, we could name the ways that shaped us to see the world different and have different ideas or different perspectives, different taste, those kinds of things, how our culture is different. But here we are, right, in the same space, and we have the opportunity to worship together, to be in community with one another. But that's because we have to lay aside some of those things that might be preferences of ours in order to make space for other people to belong.
I think something that using us as an example, what I think about is there's a mutual respect for each other. So we are able to make space for one another, each other's experiences, ideologies, and all the things, and respect the person that's sitting next to me. And I think when you talk about the idea of discomfort or the idea of making space for others, there has to be at least an initial sense of respect for the fellow being that's coming into the room, into the church space.
Yeah.
And then that develops over time into something like I would call radical hospitality, where we start to do things that maybe are much more their preference over what I'm more comfortable with and would prefer to see on a Sunday morning or any kind of church sort of event. But yeah.
Yeah, I tend to think about it as respect. It's also, like, to use a phrase that's in the Bible, this kind of love of neighbor, right?
Yeah.
So it's an act of love for me to make space for someone else to belong here. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we think about love as kind of a charitable thing, like we're giving charity or we're giving to help someone who's without. But even when we create space in this room, right? When we create space in this community for other people to belong, to bring their whole selves, it's kind of like we don't want to communicate, check your culture at the door or check your background or how you've been brought up at the door. We want you to be able to come in here as your whole self and meet Jesus, because Jesus wants to meet our whole selves, right? He doesn't want to meet the assimilated version of Wesley that's had to lay aside a whole bunch of things in order to get to Jesus. He wants us to he wants to meet me because the gospel has something to say to every part of me.
Yeah, it occurs to me two things. Number one, you talk about loving your neighbor, and the definition I've found very helpful for me, I've shared it, is like love is acting in the best interest of the other person. And to take it to this example, to say, what's in the best interest of this person? It's to find ways to help them bring their whole self into this space, right? When you start bringing all of these differences together, I suspect it's going to be messy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Yeah, and I always get in trouble when I start quoting scriptures because I often quote them incorrectly. But I think it's in Philippians chapter 2, and I won't say the verse number, but it's there at the beginning of that chapter, I believe, where it says, "Consider one another's interest above your own," right? And this is Paul writing to the church, right? And that's an instruction for him. And he looks at it through the lens of humility, but he's saying, consider one another's interest above your own. And that's just not the way we're wired, right? We're wired to consider our own interest above others. But when we begin to lay aside our interests and other interests begin to rise up, it gets really messy. But it's part of the beauty of, I think, of being in a multicultural church.
Yeah. It's creating that space and being willing to let go of, and like, there's nothing wrong with me having my preferences. Those aren't bad things.
Unless you're a Cowboys fan. Just kidding.
Oh, gloves came off. But when those become the most important thing, at the expense of my neighbor, then I've kind of lost the script.
Yeah, we're not asking people to erase a part of themselves. Like, that's not the goal, to tuck it away or to pretend that it doesn't exist.
And we're trying to find room for all of that in here, right? Bring that with us. So I think those are some helpful ideas. And again, we're looking forward to having more conversations about this in the coming series, in the coming year.
Hope for everybody. With hospitality, welcoming, belonging.
Radical hospitality. Finding a seat at the table. There's a seat at the table for you.
Yeah.
And so we look forward to seeing you in the coming weeks. Thank you very much, Pastor Wesley.
Cool. Thanks, Wesley.
Thank you.
That's a lot.
So many great conversations. I've loved every single one of them.
No, I'm excited about what we have coming up.
Absolutely.
I hope you are as well. And so we're just wrapping this up for this one special event. So glad you could join us and watch us, whether it's on Sunday or some other time.
Sometime later.
Wherever you are.
Yeah.
But know that we're starting again.
This is just the beginning of the conversation.
Beginning of what are going to be some great conversations. You'll hear more about these and other topics as we go into the new year. So plan to join us anytime you can, in person or online. And we are looking forward to a very hope-filled 2026.
I'm excited.
Yeah.